Hi, Councillor Cameron. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Sounds good.
Hi, Councillor Cameron. We're hearing you loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's public forum being held in the Council chambers for this Monday, the 11th of March. A reminder that this public forum is being audio recorded for administrative purposes. By speaking at the public forum, you agree to being recorded. Please ensure that if and when you are speaking at this public forum, that you are respectful to other people and use appropriate language. Albury City accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this public forum. Item 2, conflict of interest declarations received. Mr. Zachnich?
None received.
Thank you. Which brings us to our speakers. We have one speaker tonight in relation to, it's Andrew Peters, in relation to CM 13.1 Development Application 10.202.3.40310.1 179 Lot Torrens Title Subdivision Staged 710 Riverina Highway Thurgoona, and he is speaking for the recommendations. Andrew, feel free to come up. And just adjust the microphone so it's comfortable, and thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor King and councillors. My name is Andrew Peters and I'm the Managing Director of Birchmore. We're the developer of the DA just mentioned that is before you for consideration tonight. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I would also like to thank the staff at Albury City Council that have actively worked with us on this project and have helped it to get to the point that it's in today. Whilst I didn't prepare a formal presentation today, I wanted to take this opportunity to tell you about Birchmore as the developer of the project and also outline our vision and commitment for the project, which is now known as Hilltops. Birchmore is a Melbourne-based development business. We have a diversified portfolio of projects ranging across apartments, master plan, communities, and retail, including large-scale shopping centres. We're a young business with a passion and ambition to deliver high-quality projects and a track record to match. And we've got a customer and community focus always front of mind. We do this by partnering with market-leading consultants that have a local presence and that share the same values and passion for the regions and the projects that we're part of. Birchmore and our project team have been working very closely with the entire team at Council over the past 12 months. From the outset, it's always been our ambition to deliver a high-quality development that looks to outperform the benchmark level of development previously completed, not only for Goona, but the region more generally. To achieve this, we're focused on delivering high level of landscape amenity, be it through more dense and considered street tree planting, the retention of existing trees on site, the inclusion of landscape features such as the destinational Central Hilltop Park that captures the views of the surrounding area whilst providing significant community amenity to the new and existing residents. With our consultants and alongside the council, we have prepared a highly considered master plan. Excuse me. We prepared a highly considered master plan with a design response to the existing landscape and the contours of the site, whilst heroing the surrounding visual amenity of Lake Hume and the ranges. The master plan provides for a range of lot sizes to allow for a diverse product mix that meets community need and the demand for affordable stock through to the more premium price range. This will also include the delivery of medium density development as well as, in the form of townhouses. As you would have noted in our plans, it's our commitment to deliver the Central Hilltop Park in the initial stages of the project, which, as I've noted, is intended to be embellished to a high level. Albeit this is not a requirement of council or the PSP, it is Birchmoor's ambition and commitment for this project. Whilst preparing the current DA and considering our approach to the delivery of this important project for us and the community, we have been extremely cognizant of the current review of the Thurgoona Willinga PSP being undertaken by council as we speak. As such, we've opted to stage our development applications to provide flexibility to work with council to meet the evolving needs and objectives of the community and council that have been identified through the review process. This is a project and a region that we are extremely excited about. And I personally look forward to continuing to work closely with council and the community to deliver our commitment and ambition for Hilltops and for Thurgoona. If there's any questions, please do feel free to ask. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrew. I'll open up to councillors if there are any questions. In that case, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
That concludes our public forum. Good evening and welcome to tonight's council meeting being held on this Monday, the 11th of March. We will start with the affirmation and acknowledgement of traditional custodians. We gather to represent the people of Albury who have entrusted us with this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, wisdom and common sense. May our personal values give us honesty and courage to serve our community effectively and with respect for all. We would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people as the traditional custodians of the land that we meet upon today and pay our respects to the elders past, present and future, for they hold the memories, culture, tradition and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that contribute to our community. Item 2, recordings. A reminder that this council meeting is being webcast and recorded. By speaking at the council meeting, you agree to being recorded and webcast. Please ensure that if and when you are speaking at this council meeting, that you are respectful to other people and use appropriate language. Albury City accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this council meeting. An audio recording will be made for administrative purposes. Item 3, conflict of interest declarations received and disclosure of political donations. Mr. Zachnich, CEO.
Thank you, Mayor King. No conflict of interest declarations received for this evening's meeting. Disclosure of political donations. The Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, Section 10.4 requires that a person submitting a planning application or submissions regarding a planning application is to disclose any reportable political donation and or gifts to any local councillor or employee of council. Reportable political donations include those of or above $1,000. The disclosure statement forms are available on the council's website or from the Customer Service Centre, must be lodged in accordance with the Act. In dealing with development applications, councillors need to take into account specific planning matters contained in the Act. Accordingly, the provisions of section 4.15 of that Act are set out in the Council Officer's report, detailing planning issues to be considered. The Local Government Act 1993, section 375A requires that a division be called whenever a motion for a planning decision is put at a meeting of the council. Planning decision means a decision made in the exercise of a function of council under the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act, including a decision relating to a development application, an environmental planning instrument, a development control plan, or a development contribution plan under the Act, but not including the making of an order under Division 9.3 of Part 9 of that Act. Thank you, Mayor King.
Thank you. CM 41, apologies. Councillor Thurley.
Mayor King, I move that council receive, note and accept the apology of councillor Bettridge and grant leave of absence for the meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillors, we'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM 4.2, attendance by councillors at a meeting by audio visual link. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you to move the recommendation as a motion that council receive, note and accept the attendance of Councillor Cameron via audio visual link for the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. CM5 mayoral minute. There is a mayoral minute. We welcome the release of the Albury-Wodonga Regional Hospital Project 2023 Master Plan Report, which we have been advocating for since the project was announced. We acknowledge the significant investment being made by the New South Wales and Victorian governments in this critical regional initiative and look forward to continuing to engage with them as well as the Australian government in supporting its progression. The Albury-Wodonga Health Service is the only cross-border health service in the country. The cross-border nature of this service means it faces a range of unique challenges which differ from any other health service in the nation. The service must be enabled to meet the future needs of our nationally significant regional city and surrounding regional communities. In October 2022, the premiers of the day announced a new world-class hospital for Albury-Wodonga and that the $558 million would fund stages 1 to 3 of the project, bringing all services together at a state-of-the-art site and improving services and making it easier for locals to get the care they need in one location. The stages announced were to provide a clinical services building, including an intensive care unit, maternity services and paediatric services, a helipad with direct access to the ICU and emergency department, neonatal care and new operating theatres for more surgery, as well as a new 32 mental health bed to replace the Nolan House mental health unit. The expansion of outpatient and specialist spaces for treatment such as dialysis and a new multi-level car park. Albury City has consistently advocated for the progression of the project, the establishment of a single site hospital, as evidenced in part by the documentation attached to this mayoral minute. The Master Plan report released on the 28th of February 2024 highlights the work to be undertaken with current funding. However, we note Albury-Wodonga Health's concerns as to whether this will deliver on the commitment to the first 3 stages of the announced development. It appears that scaling back proposed works to fit within the $558 million budget estimated in 2022 will not deliver the outcomes required by Albury-Wodonga Health for our community and healthcare providers. Albury-Wodonga needs a single-site hospital to meet the needs of its growing community now and into the future. The master plan demonstrates that a single-site hospital can be accommodated on the Albury site to build upon the recent and historic investment made in our regional health infrastructure. However, it would appear from the master plan that significant further investment will be required to make this a reality. I move that Council calls on the New South Wales, Victorian and Australian governments, including National Cabinet, to work together to expedite the realisation of the Albury-Wodonga Regional Hospital Master Plan to ensure this single-site hospital meets the current and future needs of the nation's only cross-border health service by A, allocating any additional funding required in upcoming budgets to fully complete the stages of the project as previously announced. B, developing an agreed implementation plan, including timelines for all future stages of the master plan. C, allocating funding for all future stages of the master plan in forward budget estimates. D, commencing detailed design and planning for future stages as soon as construction works commence on previously announced stages. And E, keeping the community and key stakeholders informed of progress in the development of the single-site hospital. Councillors, would anyone like to speak to the motion? In that case, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? Thank you, councillors. Lovely. I declared that carried. If I didn't say so verbally, thank you, councillors. Next item, CM6 action plans. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move the following action plans be received and noted. 1, actions complete for noting only. 2, actions awaiting response from external parties. 3, actions in progress. And 4, long-term issues more than 3 months.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
Second that motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to speak to the
Thank you,
motion?
Mayor King.
Any other speakers for or against? In that case, we'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. CM7, confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. CM 7.1, minutes of the council meeting held on the 26th of February 2024 at 6 p.m. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, to move the recommendation as the motion that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 26th of February 2024 at 6 p.m. be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Happy to put the motion if there's no speakers for or against. Put the motion. Those for. Those against. That motion is carried. CM8, reports from community forums. There are none. CM9, notices of motion, notices of rescission. There are none. CM10, presentations and deputations. There are none. CM11, reports or minutes of committees and working parties. CM 11.1, minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee held on Wednesday, the 14th of February 2024. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on 14th of February 2024.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you, Mayor King. Happy to second Councillor Thurley's motion.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Just to note one very positive thing that came out of that meeting, and it was a great improvement in our health and safety stats, and that's something really positive for this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to put the motion if there's no further comments. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. CM 11.2, minutes of the Lauren Jackson Sports Centre Advisory Committee meeting held on Wednesday, the 14th of February. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes of the Lauren Jackson Sports Centre Advisory Committee meeting held on the 14th of February 2024.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen, did you wish to speak to it at all?
Just briefly, thank you. Just like to note that the construction certificate is imminent on that development that's happening for stage 1. It's been pushed back to July 2024 with the opportunity to make sure there are 2 courts always available with the winning tender. Hopefully that can happen. There's no guarantees for that, but hoping that that's going to take place. So it is going to look like commencing with some works and a rear entry of the stadium happening, so that there'll be new demountables put to the rear, so that there'll be a new entry point put in. So it's going to happen at hopefully end of July.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan speaking for the motion.
Thank you, Mayor King. Firstly, I'd like to note that Lauren Jackson has committed to another season with the Bandits. I think this is a really important thing for basketball on the border. It means more young people are watching, they're participating, they're playing, but also not only that, it builds revenue locally and it supports our local economy. So that's pretty impressive. It was also noted in the minutes and it was raised as a level of importance around more visible communication of the Stage 1 Lauren Jackson refurbishment being available in public spaces to communicate these upcoming changes. So my question through you, Mayor King, is when and where will this communication take effect, and given the construction's now in July, and what will that look like to the community?
Mr. Glass.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Callaghan, and through you, Mayor King. As Councillor Bowen just pointed out, we are waiting for the construction certificate to be awarded before to be certified before we commence a full-scale communication strategy. You'll note that we have got some information for users of the facility in the foyer, but we're looking to increase that communication once we know exact dates of when construction will start.
Thank you, Mr. Glass.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen, if there's no other speakers, happy to put the motion. Those for, those against, that motion is carried. CM 11.3, minutes of the local traffic committee meeting held on Thursday, the 15th of February, 2024. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, to move the recommendation as a motion that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes of the local traffic committee meeting held on the 15th of February, 2024.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken, did you wish to speak to the motion?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan. No? Question?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Speaking for the motion, but I also have a question as well. And I've raised the dangerous intersection at Brella Road and Keene Street on many occasions now. And thank you to Councillor Glacken, who chairs that meeting, for raising that agenda item. It was noted in the minutes that the New South Wales Police also confirmed that it was a dangerous intersection with regular crashes occurring. And Mr. Goodyear from Traffic for New South Wales was following up with that internally. Albury City Council staff were following up with their monthly meeting, which was post the traffic committee meeting on the 20th of Feb. Can you please share some of the outcomes from this meeting in regards to that intersection? Thank you.
Mr. Ferris.
We followed up at our monthly meeting we have with Transport. So with the Barella Road corridor strategy, Transport are in the feasibility stage with that. So that's part of their project development. They've moved into feasibility stage for the corridor strategy. They have identified the priorities, and the priorities are the Keene Street intersection and the East Street intersection and that section of road between the two. So we'll continue to support them as they work through their process and to have the feasibility of the project confirmed, and then their funding source for that.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken, question?
Thank you. It's really a follow-up to that information through you to the most relevant member of staff. Can the most relevant member of staff please confirm, is it the intention of Traffic for New South Wales to bring forward works whilst they would not do the entire Barilla Road works, but would bring forward works, specifically the Keene Street to East Street area, with a view to enabling that to happen prior to them undertaking other works?
Mr. Ferris.
Yeah, through you, Mayor King, that's certainly the case. As I've mentioned, they've identified their priorities. Barella Road, those areas of Barella Road need attention now. And so they're working through that process as priority projects for the Barella Road upgrade.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Glacken, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM 11.4, minutes of the Les O'Brien Athletic Track Advisory Committee meeting held on Wednesday, the 21st of February. Councillor, wish to move A motion, councillor Thurley. Thank you.
I'll move that council receives notes and accepts the minutes of the Les O'Brien Athletic Track Advisory Committee meeting held on the 21st of February 2024.
Thank you, councillor Glacken.
Very happy to second councillor Thurley's motion.
You, councillor Thurley, did you wish to speak at
No,
all?
thank you.
Any other speakers, councillors, for or against? If not, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM 12, documents for sealing. There are none. CM 13, officers' reports for consideration. CM 13.1, development application 10.2023.40310.1, 179 lot Torrens title subdivision staged 710 Riverina Highway, Thurgoona. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move an alternative motion, please.
Thank you. We'll just wait to get that up on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move that council A receives the contents of this report and B, resolve to defer consideration of development application 10.2023.40310.1 for a staged 179 lot subdivision and associated works on the land described as lot 1 of DP 1298683 situated at 710 Riverina Highway, Thurgoona, and request the applicant and developer to consider the provision of further detailed and amended plans on the following matters prior to final determination by council. Would you like to scroll up? 1, detailed landscape plan. 2, functional layout plan. Swept path diagrams for service vehicles, intersection details, traffic calming measures. And 3, identification of bus routes and required infrastructure. And 4, provision of environmental management plan. And 5, additional well-located open space and embellishments of proposed open space. And 6, identification of footpath provision within the development. And 7, consideration of amendments to the lot layouts to improve passive solar orientation and retain trees 26 to 31 and 32. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Edwards.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you, councillor Callaghan. To open debate, we do have those speaking against.
Yep, I'll open debate. Thank you, Mayor King. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for your presentation this evening, Mr. Peters. Appreciate you travelling down as well. And whilst I understand Thurgoona will grow and developers would need to clear land, I'm opposed to the clearing of mature and hollow-bearing trees. And keeping these trees add to the amenity of the development and support biodiversity. There are 19 pages of development consent conditions, which I believe many of these should be addressed in the DA. I would like to defer the motion until we see the open space provision improved so that the community can see what the landscaping plan is going to look like and provide accurate mapping for them. A functional layout plan. Where are the buses going to be? The environment dust control plan. How will this be achieved with the developer, or will many of them going to be sitting in a cloud of dust? The reason I'm asking for the deferment is to provide that detail, which I know will come in time, but I feel like if we approve the DA this evening, what we're saying is we're okay for it to happen, and then there are no eyes on those finer details, which I think is really important to Thurgoona and to the residents of Thurgoona. So we want the best for our community, and we need more clarity about what this development looks like and what it means for the prospective residents and for the greater Thurgoona. So that's why I'd like to seek a deferment tonight on the development application. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker 4, councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor King. I support this alternative motion to defer and seek changes to the development, including the retention of additional large old trees, including hollow-bearing trees. My concerns about the proposed removal of these large old trees is shared by our community, notably from Thurgoona residents and the local land care group. These trees provide valuable visual amenity and shade. They would help to reduce urban heat island effects and the current and future impacts of climate change. The tree canopies would also contribute to improved air and water quality and community wellbeing. We need more housing in our city, but we also need good outcomes for future residents. We heard that the developer has a community and customer focus. People in our community deserve to live in shady, cool, green suburbs, and utilising existing trees to achieve this should be a priority. We as a council recognise the huge range of benefits of trees, and this is consistent with a large number of council's own strategies and plans, existing, under review and in preparation. This includes the sustainability framework and action plan that is also on the agenda for tonight. Developers need to do more to create spaces that are livable. I feel like a broken record, but developers in our city need to recognise the value of trees to protect the public interest, the environment and existing amenity. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against, Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor King. Although I agree with some of the changes or suggestions put forward by Councillor Callaghan and Councillor Edwards, I'm foreshadowing that I'd like to move an amendment to go back to the original recommendation that was before council, which is, and let's see if I can get a seconder, which is A, to receive the contents of this report, and B, grants consent to the development application 10.2023.40310.1 for a staged 179 lot subdivision and associated works on land described as Lot 1 of DP 1298683, situated at 710 Riverina Highway, Thurgoona, subject to the conditions contained in the draft determination included at attachment 5 to this report. And yeah, and the reason, sorry, the reason is I'm happy to discuss the changed motion as amendments as they come up, but the conventional way to debate this type of issue, which has had a lot of council input and council officer input, is to let the original one be moved properly, and then from there, step by step, go through what changes you'd like. So yeah,
Just to confirm, so you're moving an amendment
Yes.
to the motion? Do we have a
which is to go
seconder?
back to the original motion to begin with.
Mr. CEO, for clarification, please.
So it's an amendment as in, the motion is to defer, the amendment is to deal with the application at tonight's meeting in the terms that Councillor Baker's indicated.
So we have a seconder, so we deal with the amendment. That's
That's not an amendment, that's an entirely different outcome.
So Councillor Baker can present that as a foreshadowed motion, and the debate can continue in that instance. Okay,
so we continue debate on the original motion for now. Understood. Understood.
Apologies.
Thank you for the clarification. So on the original, on the motion that Councillor Callaghan has put forward, any other speakers for? Councillor Thurley.
I speak in favour. There are one or two points that I think have not been addressed at all well. And the first one, and the major one, is most of the blocks in this development have their long axis situated north-south, which really precludes efficient use of solar energy. The other problem I have is that, and it's something I've being involved with the Murray-Darling Basin Authority and Murray-Darling Association, efficient use of water, we still have not got to water-sensitive urban design. And I believe this is going to become more and more important. And I understand that the MDBA is offering grants for people wishing to implement water-sensitive urban design. I think it's something that needs to be followed. We cannot continue simply to catch water on hard surfaces and run it down drains and into creeks and rivers. It needs to be used productively as we get it. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against, Councillor Gluckin.
Councillor Cameron is very keen to speak. I would like to speak, but Councillor Cameron.
Sorry, Councillor Cameron, I believe you may have registered your card first. Over to you. Speaking for or against, I missed the colour.
I'm speaking against the motion, which is to defer, and would comment that I'll be, if the motion is unsuccessful and the foreshadowed motion that Councillor Baker has foreshadowed occurs, I'll be supporting that. And in my view, it was a valid amendment, but anyway, no matter. The process will work itself out by the end. What I will say, though, if I can be permitted a small deviation, is the view expressed again by Councillor Baker, and we've had this argument before, or discussion before, I should say, that we have to vote on things as they're put in the agenda, or we should vote on things as they're put in the agenda, is a nonsense. It's not in accordance with the rules of debate or the code of meeting practice. And people are free to move alternative motions to recommendations, as Councillor Callaghan has quite correctly done tonight. Having said that, I disagree with it in this instance. And if trees were not able to be removed, Albury could never have been built. It's as simple as that. Urban development requires the removal of trees. And this pseudo-religion, where we seeks to take us back to the time of my Celtic ancestors, where we danced around worshipping trees, is becoming a little bit boring to me. Now, trees are important, but I'd like to remind people too that the old growth, they're not even old growth, but the older gum trees are quite dangerous. In a recent storm event last month, we saw branches and damage done to property, and it was luckily no fatalities, but a large amount of damage done, particularly in Thurgoona, where trees drop their branches. And gum trees are notorious for dropping their branches and don't go very well with built-up urban areas. So I'm not persuaded by the arguments that these hollow-bearing trees will improve oxygen quality in the numbers that we're talking about. I'm certainly not persuaded by the view that there's some sort of religiously significant item that has to be treated as a deity. And we need to expand this city. Housing is at an absolute crisis in this city. We need more housing, and Willinga Thurgoona is one of the few places it can occur. Unfortunately, it must go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Speaker against, Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor King. Yes, I speak against this motion because I believe we should be supporting this development tonight, and I believe we should be supporting this development tonight for a vast number of reasons. Not least of which is that our professional experts who deal with planning here at Albury City have put their recommendation to us as the council to make the ultimate decision that they believe this development should be approved. Yes, they have requirements that have been added to that, but they are suggesting that we approve this development. The developer has taken some time to ensure that the development meets the requirements of Albury City. It meets the requirements of Albury City because that is why or it must do, because our staff are suggesting or they're recommending that we approve it. They have compromised in a number of areas, including the retention of as many trees as they are able to ensure that the development is viable. If it's not viable, they can't do it. If they can't do it, we don't get those houses being built there. It's a phased development. They're phasing the way in which they're bringing the land and the lots to market for a number of reasons. And those reasons are very positive. It will meet that changing or the possibly changing demand as people take up the sites that or the lots that they will be offering soon, should we approve this development. They will also look at what has or hasn't worked. They have put in their application that there is one section of land where they want to create a different offering. So they're controlling that as a super lot to ensure that there is a variety of stock that is made available to people to purchase and then to build their homes. I think there are some very good things about this development, and whilst not everyone is pleased with it, I think it's a good outcome for Albury, and the developers are keen to see a good outcome for Albury. If it's not a good outcome, then the lots won't sell. So they are beholden to ensure that this is going to be a good development. We do, as Councillor Cameron has said tonight, we do need housing stock. We do have a housing shortage. This development provides for a variety or a varying lot size. That's important. The super lot will also enhance that opportunity for housing that meets or hopefully will meet, and the market will tell us if it meets what they are looking for. So I would support the foreshadowed a motion that would go back to the original motion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Any other speakers for Councillor Bowen?
Thank you, Mayor King. I'm not suggesting that this development won't go ahead. I just think the need for some more information before it's rubber stamped is probably important in my opinion. So I will be supporting the motion as it stands.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Councillor Callaghan, do you wish to sum up debate?
I do, Mayor King. Thank you. I do want this development to go ahead. At no point did I say I don't want it. I understand that our community needs to build more homes. I think the diversity of lot sizes is a fantastic concept and it needs to happen. However, it's not about just trees and air quality. It's about improving biodiversity when we keep these trees. This is about getting the best outcomes for prospective residents in that area. We have half of the information and I just want more of the detail for our community. It meets the requirements of the DCP and the LEP, I agree, which are highly outdated and well overdue for review. These are expectations that the community had 14 years ago. The expectation and level has risen. The community want more, people expect more, and developers need to come to the party with it. And what we're asking for in regards to this information is information we would be getting in due course. I'm saying that we need it up front, we need clarity and some transparency, and I don't think that's too much to ask for. The community deserve the information, and as I said, I do want the development to go ahead. This isn't knocking it on the head, this is a deferment for more information. That is simply it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? I exercise my casting vote and that motion is lost. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor King. I would like to move the original motion, which is that Council A receives the contents of this report, and B, grants consent to development application 10.2023.40310.1 for a staged 179 lot subdivision and associated works on land described as Lot 1 of DP 1298683, situated at 710 Riverina Highway, Thurgoona, subject to the conditions contained in the draft determination included at attachment 5 to this report. And I would briefly like to speak to it, please.
Yes, we do have our seconder. So,
sorry.
Councillor Glacken, just to confirm.
Thank you, Mayor King. Very happy to second. And Councillor Cameron, you may not have caught, is happy to speak to this as well.
Thank you. Councillor Baker to open debate.
Thank you. I am supporting this recommendation, but I would also like to hear as amendments or changes from the councillors who put up the alternate motion at the beginning. I think it's a good development for me. On balance, the conditions on the DA are satisfactory to me, but I'm more than happy to hear from other councillors who've got concerns about some of them. But otherwise, I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker for Councillor Cameron.
I was only indicating that I was happy to second it, Mayor King, so I don't really need to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against? I've just got a question, if I may, to the most relevant member of staff. Mr. Christie, can you explain, you have said in your note that your people have given careful and detailed assessment and consideration to the proposed subdivision. And also you've attached, I guess, additional information. Can you summarise some of those questions that you've received from your team and why you have recommended to go ahead with it as it is?
Thank you for the question and for you, Mayor King. So obviously when we have a development application, we consider a variety of things. Our development control plan controls, Part 10 were refurbished and redone and approved by council in 2020. So they are more recent, but obviously they're part of a 2010 document, just for that clarification about the age of some of the controls within the document. And so we've considered against that. A number of the excerpts that I included for the information of councillors were talking around how they're trying to achieve the objectives that are contained in the development control plan. They include things such as solar orientation, and to Councillor Furley's point earlier, yes, there are various ways. Obviously, with having greater width to the north, etc., does provide you with greater opportunities to get solar orientation. But different blocks come through, and there will be east-west facing roads, which obviously mean by default there'll be north-south facing blocks. You start to look at that solar orientation through the size of the block, through providing a little bit of extra width to those blocks to allow for some opportunities to be able to get suitable solar orientation. We've considered compliance against council's guidelines, which do consider things such as some of the information that was looked at earlier, such as footpath provision, etc. So our engineering guidelines are fairly clear around what footpath provision is required, around when it's both sides of the road, when it's a single side of the road, and then in small cul-de-sacs, normally not a footpath on either side of the roads where there are only a few houses, and that information is required by council. It's around the timing of the information, and most of the issues raised were covered in the conditions of consent that are proposed.
Question, Councillor Gluckin.
Yes, through you, Mayor King, to the most relevant member of staff. Some of the points raised by councillors as to why they were supporting the previous motion, which was an amended motion put up tonight, was that the DCP, LEP, etc., were outdated. Can I have clarification, please, as to what requirements we as councillors need to vote on when making planning determinations here at council? Are we able to determine that we don't want to support the existing LEP DCP requirements, and that we can determine ourselves that we want to not adhere to the existing requirements?
Ahead of that question, Councillor Edwards has raised an issue. We're happy to wait for the question. Thank you. Mr. Christie.
Yep, and thank you for the question, and for you, Mayor King. Obviously, under planning requirements, as outlined in the reports and also earlier in the CEO's talk through notice around determining development applications, there are a variety of things the council do need to take into account, and a lot of it requires upon the detail that's provided in each of the hierarchies. So when you talk about a local environmental plan, then it more sets a broad framework and sets land use zones, sets a number of considerations, but you don't always have a significant level of detail within a local environment plan. Then you go to lower order documents, such as a development control plan, which are then another level of detail, but some of those can be fairly generic across sites. Then we'll also include consideration of other relevant policies, such in this case, Goondiwallinia Precinct Structure Plan, which is currently under review, and any requirements that may be through from that. Under Environmental Planning and Assessment Act, that's under Part A. There is a bit around likely impacts of the development, which are just more general terms that relate to all particular applications. And Environmental Planning and Assessment Act now look at things like traffic impacts, overshadowing, overlooking, a variety of those things which may not be fully detailed within one of those other documents, but obviously potential impacts from a development. Obviously take into account whether a site's suitable for development as proposed, and that'll look into things such as contamination, locational criteria, if it's for aged care housing near shops, etc. And then there's also public submissions that are made, and those are outlined in the report and considered through from both staff, but also through councillors coming through. And then there's an overall bit more of an amorphous concept called the public interest, where it's not so much about whether people do or don't like it. It's more around that actual governance and public decision-making component rather than a popularity contest in regards to the public interest. So they're all the matters the councils are bound to take into account when you consider a development application.
Thank you. We do have another question and also a speaker against. Speaker against, Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor King. Yes, obviously speaking against this motion. The most common feedback that I get about Thurgoona as a councillor is about how few trees are left by developers in new subdivision and how hot it is to live there now. Not even thinking about what it will be like to live there in the future. So I won't be supporting a motion that continues this dangerous trend.
Question, Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King, and to the most relevant member of staff, if I may, or just to Mr. Christie, if I may, through you, Mayor King. So in summary, what you're saying is that you feel that this application should go ahead, and if anything that is in the conditions doesn't weigh up, that they won't be advised on a construction certificate. Is that the way I summarise that in very short words?
Mr. Christie.
Yep, thank you for the question and for you, Mayor King. In short, yes. So there's a number of conditions they will need to satisfy prior to commencing work, which would be commenced through what's called a subdivision work certificate. And there's also things they then need to deliver during the construction of the subdivision, which then has to be satisfied before they get what's called a subdivision certificate or title to the land. So there's a few checks and balances, and the detail for some of these things gets worked out prior to the subdivision work certificate, and then they build in accordance with the detail approved for the subdivision work certificate.
Thank you. Thank you. So just
Yep.
clarity for my benefit. So therefore, at no stage will they be able to go forward without having those boxes ticked by council.
Again, thank you for the question for you, Mayor King. Yes, subdivision work certificate's a requirement to begin works on the site.
Thank you.
Speaker against, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'm speaking against this motion this evening. As Mr. Christie has stated, there isn't a level of detail here. It comes at another stage. And I think it's in the public interest to show good governance and transparency and a level of detail, and should be available for the public prior to the approval of a DA. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question from Mr. Christie. Can you explain why the detail isn't there at this stage?
Yep. Again, thank you for the question and for you, Mayor King. So you need to admit the development application is, in essence, approval for something to occur, but it's not the approval to actually construct the activity, in this particular case being a subdivision. So there'll be far more detailed design, whether it's related to infrastructure such as water, sewerage, stuff like that. Sometimes there are further approvals that may be required, such as controlled activities approvals that may be required to be sought. And there is a requirement under the regulations. I believe out of the top of my head, it's clause 36 environmental plan assessment regulation, but I could be wrong by a number or two. That talks around the further information that council can actually request and what is more suitably kept to separate approvals, which is construction certificate for building a dwelling or a structure, or subdivision work certificates for this. It's not detailed because it's in the regs, but it does talk around a two-stage approval concept. And that's generally been held through courts approvals and other cases that come through. It's around enough information to make a clear and informed decision, but some of the detail of that information still gets worked out before works can actually commence on site.
Thank you. Another follow-up question in relation to, I guess, bus infrastructure. It was obviously raised earlier in debate. Can you tell us the process there? Because that was obviously a concern that one of the councillors brought up.
Yes, that's correct. And thank you for the question for you, Mayor King. So there's a condition we've got in their AA team, which requires negotiation and discussion and consultation with the bus companies around how they wish to actually run a bus service through the site. The design of the site includes a collector road, in essence, coming through the site, which is more than capable of accommodating bus coming through on the site, and according to our engineering guidelines, satisfies those requirements. But it's around having that consultation with around where the locations of bus stops might be and what the precise routes are that the bus companies would provide, that then goes into that level of detail again that needs to be approved before they commence work on site. So it's not deferred till just before they get titles, it's before they actually have the final road design approved and commence the construction on site.
Thank you. Another question, councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King. If this was approved this evening, does the community get any oversight into the further detail that will be provided?
Mr Christie?
Thank you for the question and for you, Mayor King. So the secondary processes, whether it's construction certificate or a subdivision work certificate, don't get exhibited for public comment because generally they're considered technical details and they are generally done in accordance with adopted guidelines such as our engineering guidelines, various Australian road standards or whatever it might be that they've been designed against.
Sorry, councillor Callaghan.
So just to clarify, the community do not see any of the detail after this is approved.
Just for clarity, Mr CEO.
Sorry, excuse me. I was going to add the information's available on the application tracker and the council's website, the planning portal, all that information when it comes in.
Thank you. Any other questions or speakers for or against? Councillor Baker, do you wish to close debate?
Thanks, Mayor King.
In that case, we'll put the motion. Those for, in division, Councillor Cameron, Councillor King, Councillor Glacken, Councillor Baker. Those against, Councillor Thurley, Councillor Callaghan, Councillor Edwards, Councillor Bowen. Given we have an apology, I will execute my casting vote. That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 13.2, main sewer pump station and new rising main at SP S01 project, stakeholder engagement plan. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that council receive and endorse the proposed project scope and stakeholder engagement plan for the main sewer pump station and new rising mains at SP S01 project.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. I'd like to second that motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Just a few words. I don't think I've seen a more complex project in my time on council. This is going to be one hell of a job to upgrade that pump station, given its location and given the surroundings. So we certainly need a stakeholder engagement plan, which will need to be open and honest because there are risks with this project. You would not go in assuming that everything will go sweetly and safely. There will be problems. There almost certainly will be problems that will need to be overcome. All we need, though, of course, is if we show the same attention to detail in choosing consultants and engineers and so on, we will get a good result. But it has its risks.
You, Speaker 4, Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Just to really highlight a lot of what Councillor Thurley has already said, in that this is a significant undertaking and it is something that has been talked about and planned for in my entire time on council, which is a significant period of time. We have always known that we would at some stage in the medium future have to do this. It's now the now future. And that it was such a significant component of our sewer network. And unless we do this and get it right, we are limiting our ability as a city to continue to grow and develop. And this is part of the managed growth and development that Albury City Council has to date been very good at undertaking and guiding us into the future. But it is a significant part of many components of what has been undertaken in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen, Speaker 4.
Thank you, Mayor King. I support the motion. 95% of all of the sewer that flows through Albury City flows through this area. And of course, this is to not only increase our network and make it work, it's actually designed to future-proof us for the next 100 years. So I fully endorse it. I understand that it is tricky, as Councillor Thurley said as well too, but I my support behind this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. CM 13.3, Bilson Park Master Plan, Scope and Stakeholder Engagement. Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you, Mayor King. Through you to move this recommendation as a motion that council endorse the stakeholder engagement plan and project scope for Bilson Park Master Plan.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Gluckin. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, this master plan is important because it's a park that has a significant number of components. So it's a long, thin park in many respects. It's therefore passive recreation, also sporting recreation. The facilities, some of which are quite outdated, need also to accommodate other areas or other spaces that are co-located with it as well. So it's a significant undertaking, and the master plan is imperative to ensure that we can bring all of those components together. It's not just one main user with a few subsequent or smaller user groups. There are a number of varied users because of that breadth of activity that is undertaken at Bilson Park.
Thank you. Speaker 4, Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I speak for this motion as well too. It's great to see that this has come on board, being ready for an upgrade in this area. So to get to the stakeholder engagement plan and to see how many different variety of user groups have been nominated to reach out to, I think is very promising indeed. Plus also great to see the facilities look like being upgraded for an all-inclusive so that it aligns also opposite our world-renowned skate park as well too. So it'd be great to have that facility match something similar to that.
Thank you. There are no other speakers for or against. Happy to put the motion, Councillor Gluckin. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM 13.4, Draft Albury City Environmental Sustainability Framework and Action Plan, Public Exhibition Submissions. Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, to move the recommendation as a motion that Council A receive and note the submissions received during the public exhibition of the Draft Environmental Sustainability Framework and Action Plan, and B adopts the Environmental Sustainability Framework and Action Plan, which is at attachment 4, with all recommended changes post-exhibition.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Gluckin, did you wish to speak to it?
We've had some great feedback from the community, and they've assisted us in ensuring that the Environmental Sustainability Framework and Action Plan is better than we had actually put out to public consultation. So that's very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speaker 4, Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor King. In March 2022, this council unanimously supported my motion for a climate emergency. That motion was supported by our youth council at the time, who represent the generation who'll be most impacted by climate change and the decisions of governments today, including this one. Part of that motion was to review council's net zero emissions targets for our community, and to develop a plan for how to achieve them. So I'm very pleased to see this framework and action plan come to fruition, which formalises our current and future commitment to climate action and our net zero targets. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker 4, Councillor Callaghan.
Mayor King, yes, I'm happy to speak for this. It's brilliant to see Albury City Council as a leader in sustainability practice and ambitious with its targets for 2030, 2040, and also aiming for net zero emissions on all waste by 2050. And as noted by Ms. Councillor Edwards, on March 28, 22, this very council group declared a climate emergency, and the Environmental Sustainability Framework and Action Plan provides a map to fulfil our commitment to this reduction of carbon emissions and supporting our community to be climate ready. This is an opportunity for Albury City Council to be a leader, to empower the community, and to plan for a sustainable future and for and for a brighter future for generations to come. And a big thank you to the many members of the community who were passionate about this and really contributed feedback, which was both positive and constructive. Thank you.
You, Councillor Callaghan. Councillor Glacken, happy to put the motion or close debate? Yes.
A couple of more points. The plan, many people tend to focus on in the environment and the effects of the environment on our community. They are significant and significant in this document. But also is the fact that we need to ensure that our community is as efficient and as effective as we can be on many fronts. And part of that is ensuring our sustainability. There are many efficiencies and many activities where we can become more effective in what we are doing that will ensure the future of our sustainability, both for the environment here locally and the wider region as well as nationally and internationally, because it's all a part of that puzzle. But it's also about ensuring our sustainability as a community into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. We will put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM 13.5, Draft Albury-Wodonga Destination Management Plan. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. I'm just getting myself up to that section. Thank you. Mayor King, through you to move the recommendation as a motion that Council endorse the draft Albury-Wodonga Destination Management Plan 2024 to 2028 for public exhibition for 28 days. And if no submissions are received, adopt the plan.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I think this is an exciting opportunity for the people of Albury to take interest in and provide us with feedback. I have no doubt that there will be some significant positive feedback and we would always welcome that positive feedback as well as constructive feedback. The visitor information and the destination information that we have for Albury is actually quite compelling. We have as an area, we've rebound post-COVID really quite remarkably well. And there are many facets of our community that ensure that it has been such a success post-COVID in trying to regain some of those high visitor numbers on a daily basis, but also those staying over as well. It's important, however, that we do continue to revisit the plan. Clearly, things have been going reasonably well for us, but we've got to make sure that we're doing all of the right things in the right way. And our community is best placed to be able to provide feedback on that. That we do have some experts within Albury City Council. They often work with experts outside of council, but it's important to have the feedback from the people on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Any other speakers for or against? Before closing, I'd just like to note that the focus area 4 under festivals and events planning and delivery, action 4.8, continue to support Chryslers on the Murray Car Show as an iconic national event and other motoring enthusiast events as they arise. I'm really pleased to see that action in there because these events are often organised and run by volunteers, and we really do seem to be an attractive destination for car events, car clubs, for enthusiasts who not only visit Albury-Wodonga for these events, but they often use us as a base for then going on further afield for scenic road trips around the region. So ensuring more, I guess, broader economic benefits across the border and northeast. And given Chryslers on the Murray is actually on this weekend, I just wanted to thank the Albury-Wodonga Chrysler Club for not only creating this event that's some 30 odd years ago, but for growing it in the way that they have. And last year, a record 953 cars turned up and more than 5,000 people attended. So you can imagine all those cars, sometimes their families, partners, and they don't just necessarily stay for the weekend, they stay for multiple days. So to have that as a focus area and an action in the destination management plan, I'm really pleased to see that focus of what our volunteers often create in their events. And this is a shining example. And the fact that that is noted for support is rather pleasing. Councillor Glacken, do you wish to close debate?
Yes, to highlight that there are a myriad of events that come to Albury and Wodonga, and they are golden opportunities. We are gifted these opportunities to make something creative or to assist and support those organisations to ensure that we have something for our community to enjoy. Those people enjoy it while they're here as well, but it adds to that vitality, that excitement within our own community and within our region. And so we need to seize those golden opportunities, as every one of them as they come up, as quite rightly pointed out by Councillor King. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Happy to put the motion. Those for, those against, that motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 13.6, IPART review of financial model for New South Wales Council's draft submission. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council endorses Albury City's submission to the Independent Pricing and Regulatory Tribunal regarding the draft terms of reference for the review of the financial model for New South Wales councils.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Do you wish to speak to it?
Very briefly, this, the way IPART and the way local government has been regulated in New South Wales has been a thorn in the side of many councils for many, many years. And at last, we're starting to get some action where they're seeking our advice, they're seeking our input, and hopefully we'll get a few good outcomes from this.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. If there are no further comments or debate, we'll put the motion. Those for, those against, that motion is carried. CM 14, officers' reports for noting. There are none. CM 15, delegates' reports for noting. CM 15.1, MDBA local government round table of Councillor David Thurley. Councillor Glacken.
Oh, sorry. I thought Councillor Thurley had pressed. I'm happy to second Councillor Thurley's motion.
Understood, Councillor Thurley. Do you wish to, yeah.
Very briefly, this was an event held in Sydney where the CEO of the Murray-Darling Basin Authority on one day conducted meetings with various groups, environmental groups, irrigators and so on, but he also included local government, and I attended on your behalf. They had the mayors of Gunnedah, Narromine, Balonne, Burke, and a number of councils along the Murray River as far as Mildura. Our meeting lasted for 2.5 hours, and it basically was a very positive thing for me that the Murray-Darling Basin Authority does seem to be listening and consulting very widely. Obviously, the big issue was water buybacks, and you can imagine that the mayors of Gunnedah, Narromine, Balonne and Burke were not very happy about what is being proposed in the amended plan. The original plan required the recovery of 450 gigalitres of water, and they only in the 12 years managed to recover 28 at a huge cost. So the new Rivers Act details a number of other ways that can be used to recover this water, and that's what the MDBA and is seeking input from councils. A week later, I did have a meeting with Tanya Plibersek and with Senator Perrin Davey, and the same questions were asked, and we were given a number of opportunities to discuss these with both the Water Minister and the opposition, the Shadow Minister. I believe there will still be a lot of debate in the community about this. I mean, there was a letter in the Border Mail just a day or two ago. It is not going to go away, and what people are seeking is clear guidelines as to how this water will be recovered. It won't all be from buybacks. The Minister Plibersek has said that, but buybacks will form part of it. We need to wait. They've already, in fact, earlier this part of the year, they were offered 81 gigalitres of water. but they only accepted 22, I think, because the rest of it was either too expensive or not appropriate. So they're not just going in and taking anything that's been offered. And that's a relief, I think, for a lot of people. Yes, there are still concerns out there. And the question is, we'll need to keep consulting. And I'm sure I'll have a lot more meetings to go to yet on this one.
You, Councillor Thurley. Any other speakers for or against? Just before summing up, I just want to congratulate your delegates' report. I thought it was very thorough and in language that we could all understand, because I know it is a complex issue. So I think we had the right representative at that meeting. So thank you, Councillor Thurley. So happy to put the motion. Those for, those against? That motion is carried. CM 16, notice of urgent business. There is none. CM 17, confidential matters. Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. Through you, to move the recommendation that council move into confidential to discuss item 17.1, as this is a confidential item, exclusive to press or public, on the grounds that the matter relates to the matters and information are the following: commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it. And that's with reference to the Local Government Act 1993, number 30, section 10A2DI.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Are there any statements or submissions from the public regarding the reasons as identified for this confidential item CM 17.1? There are no submissions received. Councillors, we wish to proceed the motion to move into confidential. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. The motion to move into confidential has now been carried. For our live stream viewers, we will now say goodbye. You can find the outcome of this confidential session in the meeting minutes, which are published on the